We all love Critical Role and Matt Mercer. But what makes Critical Role so special? Well, obviously they're all professional voice actors with decades of experience playing D&D, and you shouldn't expect your game to look like theirs. But I still think there are some things that you can learn and take away that will help you improve your game. Today I'm going to be talking about just one of these, which is using player character backstory in your campaign for a more collaborative storytelling experience. If we look at Critical Role across all of its seasons, almost all of its story comes from player backstory. And certainly almost all of its most impactful story comes from player backstory. Take, for example, the Briarwood arc, which we love. We love the Briarwood arc. It is one of the most acclaimed arcs of Critical Role. And that comes from Percy's backstory. If he hadn't written into his backstory that he was an exiled child of the rulers of Whitestone who were murdered by dark forces, we may never have gotten that part of Critical Role. The reason why so many of the best parts of Critical Role come from player backstory is because using player backstory makes it personal. I mean, think about the stories that we love. Think about Star Wars. Imagine if Darth Vader wasn't Luke's father, and Luke was just some guy. That would be a much worse story, and a much less entertaining and impactful one. The same thing is true for your D&D games. Also, player backstory essentially helps your players write what they're interested in into the campaign. Are they interested in political intrigue? Then maybe they're the illegitimate son of some major noble family. Are they interested in cosmic horror? Then maybe they have some horrible Cthulhu monster in their backstory. This just generally allows your players to introduce into the campaign the elements that they're interested in seeing. Indeed, in my campaign, when players write things like magic items into their backstory, they usually get them, which has certainly helped my players become a little bit more enthusiastic about the whole backstory and story part of the campaign. So, how can you use this technique for yourself? So the first thing you need to know is what to look for and what to ask for. Because often players aren't storytellers, and often they don't know what to include in their backstory to make an interesting and compelling narrative. So the first thing I'm going to explain to you is what you should look for in a backstory. You're looking for tension. You're looking for unresolved mysteries, enemies, and loose threads. You're looking for things that you can tie into the campaign to help invest your characters further in the world. Will your character overcome their flaw to defeat their arch-nemesis? Will your character be able to overcome their hated rival in a duel? And will your character successfully be able to reunite with their lost father? All of these are dramatic questions that would make for an excellent story. If you and your players decide that this is something that you'd be interested in, I was just asking each player to come up with 3 to 5 of these plot hooks. So you can tell your players they can come up with really anything for these plot hooks. For example, they could be mysteries, unexplained powers, mysterious artifacts, and unresolved questions from the character's backstory. They can be secrets that the character is keeping from the party. They can be crimes that the character has committed or perhaps even been framed for. They can be named characters that the player really cares about. Or they could even be enemies or rivals from the player's backstory that they would love to have a reckoning with. Now remember, you're the GM. You don't have to use all of these, just the ones that you feel like would work for your story. In fact, that's part of the reason why each player should come up with 3 to 5, so that you can just take out the ones that really inspire you or really work for your story. So let's say, for example, one of the players has written into their backstory that a necromancer destroyed their village. This leaves you with a few options. You could make that necromancer the big bad of the campaign. You could indicate that the big bad of the campaign hired the necromancer to do that. Or you could even just reskin an existing big bad that you had planned as the necromancer. You can also apply this on an even larger scale to your campaign. For example, in my campaign, one of the players was an exiled prince. So one arc of the campaign was the players going out and helping the fighter end the evil king's tyrannical reign and help the fighter reclaim his rightful place on the throne. Honestly, you guys can just let your imagination run wild with these. Frankly, that is my favorite part of getting these from the players. They can serve as so much inspiration for your campaign. Honestly, if you have writer's block at any point, you can just reach into your little grab bag of player backstory and just grab something from there and slot it into the campaign, and your campaign will be better for it. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe for more D&D advice, and if you enjoyed that one, please do feel free to click the next video here.